Staying with us, as Nigeria's correctional centers continue to go through infrastructural decay and lack of proper maintenance, it has led to an increased number of jailbreaks, which has contributed to the high rate of terrorism, banditry, and kidnapping. Thus, the federal government have now commenced a nationwide audit of inmates across the 256 custodial centers to enable it carry out decongestion of the overcrowded facilities. C4NSN has details.
Repair work is ongoing at the Kuje Custodial Centre as part of a modernization effort. The federal government is carrying out an audit of the country's 256 holding facilities. Rehabilitation efforts are currently in progress to enhance the living conditions of some of the facilities. Accompanied by the ministry's permanent secretary, Aisha Tundayako, and the Controller General of the Nigeria Correctional Service, the minister stresses the government's commitments to comprehensive reforms aimed at reducing overcrowding, improving the welfare of inmates and personnel of the correctional service.
Work in progress, basically. And here in Kuje, this is just one out of so many correctional centers that we're renovating at the moment. And as you can see, the perimeter fencing all has been concluded, all concrete, and of course, all infrastructure. You know, I wouldn't want to disclose so many of the security infrastructure that has been put in place. And of course, even when you look at the welfare of officers, the hostels, the cells have all been renovated, and facilities created, and the ambience, and of course a lot of reforms. You can see it by yourself that this is not the Kuje that you used to know.
The government's initiative underscores its commitment to overhauling the correctional system, making it more humane and effective in rehabilitating inmates while ensuring their safety and security. C4NSN, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, joining us in the studio to discuss this is Public Affairs Analyst Ziggy Ibe. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Also in the studio is a strategy consultant, Dikpo Uyewole. Thank you also for joining us.
Good morning.
This matter of prison decongestion has always been on the front burner for some time now, especially with regards to the number of prison breaks we've had and the fact that the holding capacity of most of these centers are no longer capable of holding the numbers that we have as it is. But the minister, in his own wisdom, he's saying that he's taking a facility audit of all of this whole correctional centers so that there can be decongestion. He feels that is the way to go. What say you to that?
Okay, well, I believe that it's a phasal thing for him, because if we cast our mind back to the first 100 days of this administration or the first 100 days of the ministers, there was something he did in this regard where he was able to raise, I believe, 550 million naira. So to pay for the bail of, I think, well over 1,000 people.
Absolutely, yes.
Thereabouts. So
about 4,000 of them. Yeah.
Yes. So I believe this is part of that process that is still ongoing, and we must commend that particular initiative that he did in the first 100 days of being a minister. But that being said, it's a more systemic issue, and I'm hoping that this is just one of the processes in place to ensure that we decongest the prison facilities that we have, because I'm sure for him to have come about saying he wants to raise over 500 million naira to bail people out, then he understands that there are a lot more people still within the system that are there because they can't pay bail, that are there because of very little technicalities, why they're still there. So
some are not even meant to be there.
Some are not meant to be there in the first place.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's a more holistic approach, which we are hoping that they will be looking at, and we'll definitely be having a conversation about today. But looking at renovating the structures to ensure that there aren't at least prison breaks is also part of the process we need to look at, because for all intents and purposes, we out here, we also have to be kept safe from the ones that just want to break out before they're adequately released by the law. In
fact, it reminds me of one of the correctional centers that the walls actually collapsed as a result of rain. That was some months ago that happened. But Ziggy, the minister says that we don't throw solutions to unknown problems. We know the root cause of issues and we find solutions to them. When you look at this matter critically, at the root is an audit. What part of what we should be addressing?
Yes, I think it's the right step at the right direction. And look, we must begin to know why that facility is meant for those people. It is a way of trying to reorient them from their initial mindset to a better mind. Okay, and like the name depicts, it is a correctional facility, center, or services where when issues you had ab initio was not good for the society, when you get there, ideas, your mind will be changed that will be fit to reabsorb you into the society when you are done with your jail terms. And that will not deviate from the purposes for which that facility is meant for. If it is not made conducive for the inmates, you are inviting more troubles. Because if it is a facility where they go to have a rethink, where they go to have a new mind, where they need to inculcate new ideas into their life, because that was the reason they came there, was because they were no longer fit for the society. Now they are brought in there to a kind of tutor them or correct their minds. So if it's not meant for that purposes, then the idea had failed ab initio. Okay? And you know, like you said, so many people who were there were not supposed to be there in the first place. So there's this holistic approach that will deeply look into errors that they were brought in, why they were brought in, okay? Because so many people we heard many times that they don't supposed to be there. The offenses they committed are not fit for their being there. So I think the judiciary, all the arms of government that are linked to taking people into these correctional centers should actually work harder to know why they should not be there, to know why they should be there, and because there are issues, there are little mistakes that don't supposed to attract anyone to that place. But when you lump up everyone into the place, we are looking for more troubles. And the congestion is another issue. That place is overpopulated. So many of the facilities we have are no longer fit to accommodate the numbers of inmates. Hence, we're having jailbreaks everywhere. Okay? So, and, you know, I've heard so many people who talk about, look, I prefer going to jail in US. You know, do you understand the logic? The logic is that when you are there, in fact, your mind will be reset.
You'll be productive.
Yes, you'll be productive. And you know, when you get to certain places, people even graduate, they attend schools.
Yeah,
opportunities are given to them.
There are some NGOs who run that here
exactly.
in Nigeria.
Opportunities are given to them. Artisans. In fact, so many inmates, when they are out, they become very professional and skilled, very artful in so many areas. Okay? And that is the conducive nature of how the place is supposed to be. If it's not conducive, where people are going to learn some of these handworks, artisanship and all that, then you are creating more trouble than you are solving it.
Absolutely. Like I was mentioning earlier, some NGOs actually take up this responsibility of going to the prisons to educate those who are there, teach them. In fact, some of them write exams.
Yes.
As they are there.
I learned in some countries that you can gain admission and they offer off-campus services to inmates, such that when you are out, you could become a graduate from your choosing a career or choosing,
and then you get a job.
Yeah, you could get a job because as you are coming out, you will be reintegrated into the society. That means you are very now fit to become a participant in that society. And the idea is that because it's a correctional center, you get there to actually reset your mind and reorientate you into the best way the society could accept you.
Absolutely. We'll get back to this matter of reintegration because that's also a major concern.
Yes.
Where some persons do not get jobs. You see some forms, they'll ask you, have you gone to prison before, and all of those things.
Exactly.
So some form of making some persons not feel good about themselves and all of that. But let's get back to this matter of the congestion. There are those who said, like we rightly pointed earlier on, that there are some persons who are not supposed to be there. This matter of arrest and remand, we see that some people just, some police officer arrests some persons, detain them beyond 24 hours. That is meant to be the constitutional time. And they are there for as long as possible until perhaps help comes for them as it is. And there are those also saying this matter, we need to look at it critically, the blatant abuse of this matter of arrest and remand where we are not adhering to the laws as it is.
Well, it goes back to there being consequences for these types of actions. Because the question is, folks that were arrested and were kept beyond the time they were supposed to be there legally, who were the people that effected the arrests? Why were they there for that long? What are the consequences for the persons in charge or that made sure that that person was there beyond the time they were supposed to be there? So have we ever heard or come across any time where there's been consequences for such actions? Personally, I haven't heard of it. I haven't seen one. So until we are able to take it from that particular level itself, going into the correctional facilities themselves is going to be a bit of a challenge, because in some cases you go to some police stations and then you find that some folks have been there for more than 24 hours or more than the time they ought to be there for very frivolous reasons. So until we're able to address it from that particular phase, saying that you are arrested and detained for more than 24 hours, some people get charged to court straight from there. They've not spoken to anybody. There's no bail option. There's no nothing. And you see a lot of people, they get to court and they're very confused and they're wondering what's going on. Why am I here? And the next thing you know, they're sentenced and they're thrown somewhere. And they are there every day. You have different NGOs go there. You have different organizations go there, and they keep telling people that they don't know why they're there. They shouldn't be here for these reasons. So we need to also add to the audit that is being done the entire process. So it shouldn't just be an infrastructural audit. It should be the audit of the entire process. What would lead someone to be in those facilities? Because now we're talking about decongestion. So are we then looking to have more people in there first before we're talking about having the ones that are there to be out? So we need to also address the entire process from point A to point D. From the point of arrest, what is going on, to where they get charged to court, to where they get sentenced, to where they get in there. What are the things, are there things that we need to address in our laws? Is it a legal issue? Is it a legal issue, or or there are issues of abuse, there are systemic challenges? These are things that should be included in the audit and shouldn't just be an infrastructural audit. The audits that would make all of this to be more effective and to achieve the objective of actually decongesting these facilities is to audit the entire process itself and not just saying we're renovating facilities and all of that. So we're hoping that they're auditing the processes. I mean, I'm saying this, giving them the benefit of doubt because of how they started off. I mean, like I said, that they were able to raise money from outside government coffers to ensure that they got a lot of people out of it. So we're hoping that they're also looking at the entire process to ensure that if you're not supposed to be there, you shouldn't be there. If you're supposed to be there, what is going on? Are you actually being properly rehabilitated? Because now they're being called correctional facilities. They were never called that for a very long time. I can't remember if it was this administration or the tail end of the last one that they changed the name to correctional facilities. And then some of us said, if they are truly correctional facilities, what are the things that do go on in there while they're there? Because you mentioned that NGOs go to places like that to teach them and all. Youth corps members also do that. I did that during my youth service. And we need to understand that these systems that external facilitators come in for, need to be integrated into the system itself and not rely on
just NGOs.
Just NGOs or the external. It has to be incorporated into the system to ensure that there's actual correction happening in these correctional centers and not just places to let out punishment for bad behavior.
Yeah, perhaps this is why some persons have said that the subnationals have a huge responsibility to play. That's state governors have a huge responsibility to play because this matter of prisons have been taken off the executive list to the concurrent list, where the governors need to play their roles at ensuring that the state of these prisons should be what it is, and then those who are in there that are let out are integrated back into the society, and the governors perhaps put a structure in place where these persons are not just wandering around and then find themselves going back into the prisons again, but addressing the issue.
One funny thing about some of these processes is that each time someone, an inmate or someone who has been set free, is out of that hook, you'll find a person committing more crime than took him there ab initio. Okay? And most times when they are interviewed, you'll find out that they got their friends who they had committed this offense with in that facility. Okay? And like it has brought to this concurrent list, the governor should not left the job on the hands of the NGOs. NGOs go there to do good jobs.
They are trying to bridge the gap, actually.
Yes. But then bridging the gap shouldn't be left in their hands alone. The governor, the state government should have an arm or set up a committee that will actually interface with the facility coordinators, those that are saddled with this responsibility, such that the people, the interaction, the interfacing with the inmate, because they are human beings, okay, but they have a different orientation. That eventually what land them into that trouble. So they need to be corrected. And that place needs to be equipped with a lot of facilities that will actually do the job of correcting their mindset, okay, making them believe that the society where they are coming from will be better or will make them better if they had been left off the hook. You understand? Right. Then another thing is the whole process, like you said, should be interrogated. The audit shouldn't be facility audit alone. What took these people into the place? What landed them into trouble? Some flimsy, if you go to police stations, you'll be amused. You'll be surprised at certain cases that wouldn't ordinarily warrant anyone to go into these facilities. But it is allowed to accumulate such that before you are taken to the law court, before you know it, you find yourself. And that's why so many of them will ask questions. Why am I here? I don't know what I did. So the whole process should be interrogated. Then the facility managers, the officers, should be friendly, because I've visited that facility before. Not once, not twice. The unfriendly nature of these people is terrible. Yes, I must say it. Because each time you actually, they are human beings like you, but their orientation eventually went wrong. Probably that's why they are brought in there. And interacting with them, getting to know troubles, why they are there, and how to solving it will create this, will bridge this huge gap. Okay? Because if they are not properly trained, if they are not properly managed when they are brought in, they might go out worse than they came in. And those are what we're having today. Most of the criminals we're having outside here today, most of them have served jail terms. We've had so many times where you had someone who was released just a year ago, few weeks ago, now went into crime. It doesn't supposed to be so. It doesn't supposed to be so. What is supposed to be is when you are out of that place, being reintegrated into the society makes you a better person. The society has to offer you much better opportunity to rediscover yourself, which the process had started from the facility. Yeah. You understand? So if it is not that way, we failed in that regard. Because if the correction didn't start there and onward to the society in where he will be reintegrated into, he will become a worse person. Because when they get there, they interface with worse human beings. They interface with colleagues,
all kinds of
people. And when they're out, they regroup worse than they will regroup to commit worse atrocities that they've had that landed them to that
perhaps
place.
We need to interrogate what the missing link is with regards to these people getting the right kind of correction they should get while in the correctional facility.
Yes. So I'm glad you asked that question. And I'll try to prefer one or two solutions to it using one or two personal examples. So when I was serving many years ago, we went to like 2 or 3 correctional facilities. And they had the male section, they had the female section. So what we did was we went to the male section, we tried to teach them computer, hardware, engineering, all of that, how to repair computers. And then for the females, we tried to teach them how to use Microsoft PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, so that when they're out, they could do clerical jobs. When the men are out, they can always fix your computer. They burn a CD. That was back then when people could burn CDs and all of that. So, and you'd be surprised the interest these guys had in this thing. I was in the Word, PowerPoint, Excel group teaching the ladies, and we had tests, we conducted tests for them. There was a particular lady that her experience has always stood with me because at the time she was 18 years old. She couldn't read, she couldn't write.
18?
At 18. She couldn't read, she couldn't write. But she could all but have a photographic memory. So when we conducted tests for all of them, hers had to be oral. She got the highest marks. Now, when you're talking to them in class, it's like she's not listening. But she had almost perfect recall. And a lot of us were asking questions. Why are you here? Leave out the fact that maybe you can't read or write, but you have an amazing memory. Why are you here? We saw some women, their mothers there. We saw people's sisters that were there for different offenses. Of course, we were giving strict rules and guidelines on how to engage them, not to ask personal questions and all of that. Just conduct our business and go. I cited those examples to let us understand the importance of bridging that particular educational gap there. There were some of them that we literally had to start teaching 110 units. Adults, yes. Right there. While some folks were doing the MS Office trainings, there were some that were teaching additions and all of that. All of them above 18. Now, the other experience we had, same thing when I was serving them, was there was a juvenile youth detention center, which I also hope they are included in that 256 that they are auditing. And piggybacking off what he said with how they've been treated in there, it was most disheartening what we saw, because for the littlest offenses, they were beaten and punished for what we deemed unnecessary. Because these young boys were literally just boys. They were under 18. That's what the particular facility is for. And then you find some of them stay there for 2-3 years, and they come out more hardened than they went in.
So the treatment they get within the facility
is also a problem.
Right.
So the education that we're talking about now shouldn't just be about the inmates. It should be about their minders, their officers. Everyone needs a particular set of orientations that is applicable to why they are there. If you are there to ensure they stay in there, you need your own training. If you are in there because you need to stay in there for a particular period of time, you need to be there, be trained, so that you are a productive member of society when you leave. In that particular juvenile facility, we went in there to teach them same thing about computer stuff, and they were told, we're particularly asked that if our computers were connected to the internet, we're not going to be allowed. Why? Some of them were there for internet fraud. 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds. We saw a particular 14-year-old there at the time. I'm sure he should almost be 30 by now. He was you could tell he was very hardened. Had tattoos on, had very hardened disposition. Now, I'm not saying he necessarily got that in there, but has the facility also helped to soften him up?
Right.
I doubt it. It hasn't. So, since it's been taken off the executive list to the concurrent list, I would hope that the governors, now I don't think they need to set up a different committee because then all of money starts going into that. We have ministries of education. There is no reason why ministries of education cannot carve out an arm to say that they are a prison reform educational system, whatever name they want to call it, to ensure that there's a particular curriculum that gets delivered first to the ones in the juvenile detention centers, so that even if it is to get them from there to go and write WAEC, to go and write GC, to go and write JAM. So whenever they are done with their sentence and they don't get to move to the prison for adults, so when they are out at 17, 18, they can at least have a semblance of a future.
Absolutely.
Not saying that they've been there. So there were some of them that were taken there by their parents, saying that this one, we cannot handle him, this one, we cannot train him, he's a problem child. There were some of them that were there for murder. At 12, at 13, oh, you were fighting with somebody, you broke bottle, you stabbed the person, and you found yourself there. But is the system that they have found themselves now, is it actually correcting them? Are they coming out as better persons? Are they coming out as productive members of society when they come out? Because some of them go in there at age 11. You're saying they will come out at maybe 17 or 18. 6, 7 years has passed. Do you know why it has passed? GC has passed. Maybe it's only probably 6 that they did before they got in there. So there's a huge vacuum that needs to be filled. How about to see how to educate them in there? Now, doesn't mean that they come out and necessarily have to go to higher institutions. Some they want to learn a trade. But at least part of what education does for you, it doesn't matter where you are, is to also address your orientation.
Absolutely.
So if we're saying that we need to address their orientation and correct them adequately, we must see how to infuse proper standard education into the systems. Now, even if we're saying that, okay, because you're in there, we haven't figured out the modalities to write WAEC and all of that, can we have past questions given to them? To say, okay, when you go out, even if you go out at 17, and you have to start from WAEC, this is what the questions look like.
Right.
This is how they ask questions. So you know that what you have been taught in there, you can apply it out here. So there isn't so much of a vacuum and a gap between them and their peers. Because these are the issues and these are the challenges. Because they come out, they feel left out, they feel all alone, and then they go back to a life of crime.
Absolutely. These are critical issues that have been pointed out here. Gentlemen, we must thank you, Ziggy Ibe, Public